Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for Wednesday, June 18th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We will be going over my core picks. It's going to be one pitcher, four hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And then after that, we'll move over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Wednesday slate overall. And then in the morning, I'll be posting my early morning weather report of any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then I will also be listing as many of these starting lineups as I can get to down in the comments section throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely be on the lookout for all those, especially as we do get closer to lock. But without further ado, we'll get right into it with the core picks. We're going to start off at that pitcher position. I went with Framber Valdez here at $10,300, averaging just over 39 fantasy points per game on the season. He's been pitching extremely well as of late. He goes against the Athletics for this Wednesday contest. He has some pretty decent history versus them in the past. He had 2 starts versus them last year. He had 38 and 55 points in those 2 starts. So definitely do like his upside once again. If we look at what he's done so far in the season in totality, 7 wins, ERAs at 3.1. Once again, averaging about 39 fantasy points per game at $10,300. It looks like a really good option. Obviously, I do have some core hitters here that are a little bit more expensive. So if you want to pay down at that pitcher position, definitely feel free to do so. Ryan Yarbrough is actually a sneaky play on Wednesday slate going against the Angels. He has some good history versus them in the past. He's got a relatively cheap price tag just in general at the same time as well. Then we're going to move down to first base with Yandy Diaz. He's $2,900. He's going against the Baltimore Orioles. Expected pitcher for them is going to be Trevor Rogers. He's 2 for 2 versus Trevor Rogers in his career. Very small sample size there, but definitely do like what Yandy Diaz has been doing as of late. He's currently on an 8-game hitting streak, 5 multi-hit games during that time span, 2 home runs, 5 double-digit performances, and 6 games of at least 9 fantasy points or higher. So at $2,900, looks like really good value overall. He's got a .266 average, 10 home runs, 41 RBIs, averaging just over 10 fantasy points per game at $2,900. Looks like a really solid play altogether. You could put together a Tampa Bay Rays stack. Typically, they are a team that does a little bit worse versus left-handed pitching, but Yandy Diaz, obviously a guy that can hit both left-handed and right-handed pitching pretty well, and he bats right-handed, so a little bit more favorable against lefties just in general. And then we're going to move down to second base with Ketel Marte. Wish he was a little bit cheaper at this point in time. He's $3,800. He's averaging just over 12.5 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the Toronto Blue Jays. It is Eric Lauer is the expected starting pitcher for them. He is 7 for 17 with 2 home runs versus Eric Lauer in his career. If we look at what Ketel Marte has done as of late, he's got at least 1 hit in 6 out of his last 7 games. However, only 1 multi-hit game, 0 home runs during that time span, only 1 double-digit performance, but he does have 6 games of 9 fantasy points or higher. So the floor has been there as of late, but the upside hasn't been quite as much, but I definitely do like that history versus Eric Lauer in the past. Obviously, if you don't want to play Ketel Marte, definitely do understand it. I think the Arizona Diamondbacks are going to look like a pretty interesting stack, as well as the Toronto Blue Jays. So it should be a pretty good offensive game there just in general. But if we look at what Ketel Marte has done so far in the season, .285 average, 12 home runs, 23 RBIs, averaging about 12.5 fantasy points per game on the season at $3,800. Then we're going to move down to third base with Jose Ramirez, another pay-up option, $3,700, averaging just under 13 fantasy points per game on the season. He's going against the San Francisco Giants. It is expected that Justin Verlander will make his return from the IL, and Jose Ramirez has fared very well against him in his career, as he is 13 for 40 with 4 home runs versus Justin Verlander. He has at least 1 hit in 12 out of his last 14 games, 6 multi-hit games during a time span, 4 home runs, 9 double-digit performances at 10 games of 9 fantasy points or higher. So obviously at $3,700, we're looking for that double-digit performance. We're looking for that upside. Jose Ramirez is going to give us that more times than not. And he currently has a .324 batting average, 13 home runs, 34 RBIs, averaging just under 13 fantasy points per game at $3,700. Definitely looks like a pretty good play. And the Guardians could be a little bit of a sneaky stack just in general as well. And then last but not least, we're going to move down to the outfield with TJ Friedel. He is at $3,300, averaging just over 11 fantasy points per game on the season. Going against the Minnesota Twins, Bailey Ober is the expected starting pitcher for them. He is 3 for 6 versus Bailey Ober in his career. And if we look at what TJ Friedel has done as of late, he has at least 1 hit in 6 out of his last 7 games. Only 1 multi-hit game during that time span, though, so that's kind of like the one downside. But he does have 3 home runs and 5 double-digit performances, so he's been performing really well as of late. If we look at what he's done so far on the season in totality, .288 batting average, 8 home runs, 28 RBIs, once again averaging just over 11 fantasy points per game at $3,300. But with that being said, if you were to go with the 5 players that I do have listed here, you have just $11,000 remaining, just over $2,700 remaining per player. So we're going to have to find some spend down options if we play all 5 of these guys together. But with that being said, obviously stacks will play a pretty big role just in general. So you don't have to necessarily play all 5 together, especially from the hitter perspective, playing from 4 different teams. But definitely feel free to mix and match as you do see fit. It is a rather large Wednesday slate as compared to most weeks, so definitely we'll have a lot of flexibility out there just in general. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for Wednesday slate overall. So we're going to start off with the Toronto Blue Jays. They are going against Eduardo Rodriguez of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Rodriguez has really struggled so far this season, and the Blue Jays have decent history versus him in the past, so definitely do like the upside with that Blue Jays lineup. Then we have the New York Yankees. They're going against Jack Conklin of the Los Angeles Angels. The Yankees are struggling a little bit as of late, though, so maybe they won't be quite as popular to stack as they would be normally. But, Jack Conklin's ERA is at like 5.5 at this point in time. Yankees don't have much history versus him, but some of their hitters have hit him pretty well in the past. Then we have the Atlanta Braves. They're going against Paul Blackburn. Not a long list history there. Obviously, he was injured to start the year. He hasn't been too great yet. So I like the upside of that Braves lineup just in general. And then last but not least, we have the San Diego Padres going against Emmett Shaheen, making his season debut coming off that IL. Wasn't pitching too deep in the games down in the minors. Probably not going to pitch too deep into this game. And we'll see if he's effective or not. So definitely do like the Padres versus him. But with that being said, these are my core picks as well as top GPP stacks for Wednesday, June 18th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then once again in the morning, I'll be listing my early morning weather report. They have any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain or higher. And then I will also be posting as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely be sure that you are checking up down in that comment section, especially as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, if you are brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have MLB DFS in terms of the core picks, typically Monday through Friday. And then I got my CFL DFS video dropping once a week that typically comes out on Wednesdays. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user to any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's a 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's a 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to this whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS for Wednesday, June 18th.